What's up guys, Houndish here, and today I wanted to talk a little bit about the end game for Destiny 2 and how I think it's panning out right now. Of course, there's a bit of a conversation right now from the people who play a lot of Destiny about the kind of direction for the end game, how easy or difficult things are, how much content there is, and all of that kind of stuff. My particular perspective on it is that I think on the most part, the end game may be lacking some of the depth and variety that we really want to see in the game. So I want to talk about it a little bit in this video, but it's worth me pointing out this is not a rant. I'm not out of control or mad at anybody or anything like that. I want to have a conversation that's constructive about where Destiny goes from here, what happens, and how the end game evolves. It's also worth noting that this is the vanilla launch window for Destiny 2. We've just come out of, a 3-year-old game that's had really a massive number of major content drops. And of course, over time in that game, we accrued a whole bunch of different stuff that you can unlock, activities that you can do, and that's sometimes a thing that people don't respect about kind of where we ended up in Destiny 1. Another thing that's really worth noting when I go into this is that Bungie have had to cater to the audience who wants to buy a good story game. They want to know what Destiny's about, they want to have a good story, unlock some achievements, clear the map, reach some kind of respectable level with their character, and then see if, Destiny is something that they want to play continuously down the road. Bungie have had to make sure that this is a good experience for those players who want a campaign game, the players who will stick around for a couple of months, they'll do all of the stuff and then move on to something else. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. Obviously, that's a huge audience. So it's worth bearing in mind what Bungie's task has actually been with this game before we talk about all of this stuff. But inside of the end game right now, on a weekly basis, of course, we have the milestones, we've got the Nightfall, Crucible, Flashpoints, you've got additional clan XP objectives, you also have the raid and Trials of the Nine, and these are kind of the core activities. Of course, you might be clearing stuff off your map still. We've just had the faction rally, which is kind of a side objective to all of this, so there's no denying that there is stuff there. And people have different opinions about how easy these things are to do, how easy it is to get the Crucible milestone done, or how difficult the Nightfall is, whether you like timers on those activities and things like that. And while I do think those debates are valuable, in this video I really wanted to focus a little bit more on the systems for the game. Most of the activities are relatively rewarding in comparison to Destiny 1. Of course, the issue with that is that it creates even more work for Bungie to keep producing new content. If you're going to give stuff away faster in the game, it means that you need to make more new content faster to keep players interested. I'm not complaining that there is too much loot, I'm just outlining some of the issues that obviously stem from that. Otherwise, I feel like milestones are a good system for targeting rewards every week and encouraging players to engage in more types of content. The Nightfall is more challenging in general, and I personally don't have a problem with timers or the difficulty level of the activity. I understand that some folks don't like the way they work now, and that's fine as well, but I think one of the big issues with strikes in general, as many folks have said, is that there is no strike playlist. There is no robust reason to visit strikes regularly unless you're told to by a challenge or a quest. I actually think that players shouldn't always be told, hey, today we want you to do this and you'll earn X loot. Sometimes that's fine, but I think we also need to have more strike specific loot in strikes. We need to have reasons to complete these activities over and over. I also feel like we need to see more tangible drops from these activities and not always engrams. What about strike specific loot quests as well? You could have a full set of armor that starts with a class item drop in a strike, and that first armor piece could come with a quest attached to it that takes you to replay a heroic version of an adventure. You could have the strike specific for the Pyramidion, then take you on a quest through some of the adventures on Io, maybe a couple of side objectives like collect X number of materials or find some relics on Io for Asher, and then finally complete a heroic version of the Pyramidion to receive the helmet, which would be the final piece. This is just an example, but you could really flesh out certain activities in this way. What we need though in general is more depth. Certainly strike playlists with unique rewards is something that we need back in the game. The Crucible is another place where the reward system feels a little bit lackluster. I guess the end of game drops are fairly decent, but much like strike playlists, we need some tangible progression. We need things that feel like you're building your profile as a player. While I'm on the subject, ranks. I feel like we really need to see what rank we are in game for every faction and vendor. Not having it simply reduces that sense of progression in game, but for the Crucible in particular, I feel like there needs to be a more robust set of gear and earnable things that you can actually get while you're playing, much in the same way that strike playlists need to be a thing and there needs to be strike loot. I like that there is a basic Crucible milestone. I feel like having something which isn't too difficult and won't take too long will keep players going into PvP every week, even if it's not the main content that they enjoy. But there should also be more depth. Again, bring back quartermaster bounties, perhaps a longer weekly quest that requires you to do particular things. You could always take the Crucible loot pool and make Adept Crucible gear. It doesn't have to be the rarest or the best gear in the game, but the Adept gear could be essentially the same, maybe with some different chroma effects and some unique shaders that can drop. Again, they're just examples. I'm not saying that Bungie have failed at this, I'm just outlining some of the opportunities which stand out to me. Of course, Bungie could already have a plan for this stuff that we're going to see down the road. It's just that carrot on a stick. Sometimes it's the kind of small, simple things like faction emblems or ships. Where are the sparrows for factions? Again, I'm not saying we need a full inventory of multiple different things off the bat, but you could have an exotic ship for each faction on display, for example, and in the loot pool you could actually take a look at it when you go to your faction, and it could read 20% increase in the chance to receive this item when you hit rank 10 with Dead Orbit, and you could get another buff when you hit rank 30 or something like that. Of course, you'll have to start displaying the faction ranks in game first, but I think you guys get what I'm saying. It's the same for all of the other activities in the game, raids and trials. As much as this is about the big stuff, it's also, of course, about the smaller things that do equate to quite a lot of work and planning for Bungie. So again, I don't think Bungie have failed at this, these are just opportunities. Of course, we have yet to see the Iron Banner, we've still got prestige raids and challenge modes, plus any other surprises that Bungie have for us. So we're also going to see a level cap increase before too long, and we're likely to see some kind of basic system changes between the first grind to rank 300 and then what happens beyond that. Of course, Prestige Raid itself offers new rewards and perhaps opportunities for ornaments and, you know, a little bit more variety and depthy progression. On the subject of variety though, specifically with loot, there is the fact that when you get a gun, that's it now. There are no more random rolls on weapons, and this is a point of conflict for sure. Many veteran players would love random rolls back, many other players in general feel that this system is better, and yes, it does fix the problem that randomly rolled weapons created, and that's in terms of balance. You know, when you have so many sandbox possibilities, naturally it becomes increasingly difficult to create harmony and weapon balance. For me personally, I'm one of the players who is disappointed to see this go away, and that's not to say I'm mad about it, you know, I'm not going to make myself unhappy about it. In fact, I've really enjoyed some of the design that has happened as a result of this, you know. Better Devils, for example, has explosive rounds, which is really good, and Better Devils is 140 RPM with 84 impact, and then there's True Prophecy, which fires slower but has higher impact, so does more damage. It also has really good range, and if you put explosive rounds on True Prophecy as well, it would probably be the better hand cannon, but instead it has timed payload, which is similar to explosive rounds but doesn't do the same damage. You know what I'm saying? You can see this across the board. Just compare Uriel's gift and the number. Would glass half full be a problem on Uriel's gift, considering it has high cal and is literally a laser beam? Yes, it probably would, so there is a trade-off there, and I think on the most part Bungie have done a really good job with design like that. However, for me at least, most engrams or weapon drops now are not really exciting because I know it's the same thing I already have. They did address this before the game dropped. Luke Smith said that they're working on ways to make the second or third Better Devils more interesting. Of course, they haven't implemented anything to remedy that issue just yet. I personally think we need to see real weapon mods in the game, mods which actually give you another perk or can change stats. What if we could completely swap one perk out on a weapon? It would have to be very curated though, you know, maybe give you the option of one of 3 or 4 bonuses for each slot. It would be limited for sure, but it would also mean even more work on each and every weapon that Bungie create. As I said when I spoke about strikes, curated means more work, more loot means more curated, more work for Bungie. And obviously that poses some issues in itself. There's a lot that Bungie need to do with this game. I do believe though that Bungie aren't stupid, and I say that because often people talk about Bungie as if they're daft or something, but we saw nothing but improvements through Destiny 1's lifecycle, and that's pretty undeniable. Yet with Destiny 2, they have this huge task of creating an entirely new experience, story, worlds, and gameplay design. They also have to sell a game for the player who wants a great story with some progression, to unlock some trophies, and then have a sense that they actually completed that game in some form or another and potentially move on if they're done. And Destiny 1 failed that audience so terribly. I don't feel like Destiny 2 has done that. Bungie's next task though is to kind of please its existing player base who does understand Destiny already. You know, the audience that have a huge list of expectations, which is vastly more significant even than the 3 years of improvement we already had in Destiny 1. So essentially, rant over. I feel that my stance is, yes, there are issues with the game, but I feel like we need some more time and Bungie needs some time to present what else they have for us and be able to say, you know, we fixed the major bugs coming out of launch, we're confident that the experience is robust for a player coming into the game, and once that launch window is out of the way, because that's worth bearing in mind, we are technically in the launch window, we're still receiving the roadmap to launch content. What it comes down to me is that it's what happens next which is most important. We need the endgame to evolve, to be fleshed out, and I've given some examples of how that can happen. Obviously, I'm not a game designer, I don't hold all of the answers to how this is going to work out, and while I've spoken about the things that I have and I believe there are things that need to improve, we need to respect that this is a vanilla game and it's not possible for Bungie to deliver a game as vast as Destiny 1 was after 3 years all at the same time. Up until now, Destiny 2 has been a pretty awesome experience for me personally, and it's about what happens next. So those are my thoughts on Destiny 2's endgame right now, guys. There's a lot that Bungie have done which is absolutely fantastic, and there's also a lot that needs to happen. So I'll be curious to hear what you guys think in the comment section. If you have enjoyed this video though, a like is very much appreciated. Definitely let's have a constructive conversation down below. If you are new to this channel though and you feel like you want to see more Destiny 2 content, feel free to hit subscribe and keep up to date. For now though, I appreciate you guys watching and I hope you have an awesome day.